Think of this video like a handbook to exhibition making with a bunch of ideas that can be applied to any show. Just like the opening pages of a good book, a movie that hooks you in from the start. The first step in any exhibition making should be to set the scene. Treat the walls as a backdrop to the stage you want to set before bringing any actors into the equation. Parham's practice meanders between controlled compositions on canvas and his interest painting directly on the walls, in or outdoors, derived from his long history of graffiti writing. So it felt natural for us to lean into this aspect of his work as a way to begin layering imagery in the space.
It felt so good for me that I could tickle the authority with such a simple thing, you know. So it was like a tiny disorder with no consequences that felt so good, you know. So I felt like more of that, please. I received graffiti through these kind of, you know, MTV culture or you know, all these films or video games or these kind of stuff, and I had really no idea about the culture around it. You know, it was just my personal misinterpretations of all the stuff that I see online. There was no real hip-hop community or culture around, right? Or if there was, I wasn't a part of it. So to me, it wasn't about hip-hop or anything like that. It was, now that I think about it, it was very much my way of mapping through the city, facing the city, and leaving my marks on this environment, in this really brutal environment. And still you can see like references of graffiti in my oil paintings, because it's all connected. If you see painting as this kind of sophisticated way of kind of sculpting a footprint as a resistance against death, graffiti kind of functions the same way. You might want to go back. In a place, in a city that is constantly developing, in a really mindless way, is developing so quickly, and it's just concrete and metal, and you cannot leave any rendition of any kind of footprint as in a personal individual footprint. And so the only way is to scratch on this surface of concrete with graffiti.
What is a house without furniture but a shell without a snail? Or something like that. Okay, so today I'm just making these display cases for Parham's A3 drawings, which are going on this wall over there. You might have seen these in the studio visit film, which I'll link up here, but basically they're sort of A3 sketches in oil paint, which are kind of beautifully rendered, all done in one day, basically. So basically these will go all the way across this wall here, and then halfway along this wall here, and behind that there'll be a kind of spray painted wall drawing. So first I measured out a few lengths, then attached this metal beam as a guide for the circular saw and started cutting. And I'm using the circular saw at a 45-degree angle to do these lines here, so that when they sit on the wall, they'll basically sit up from the wall slanted. So next I'm going to cut a series of plywood triangles that basically angles the longer sheets of plywood off from the wall at about 35 degrees. So basically this is a 35 degree, this is a 65 degree, this is where the wall will be, and then this is where the paintings will be. So first I've made this, with the triangles at the end, a beam in the middle which I'll attach this piece of plywood to. So I've added this bead in here, so that the paintings sit flush in, and this edge That end doesn't have any, it's sitting against the wall. These ones will be fixed to the wall separately rather than making a standalone thing like this. So the only thing is we can't fix them to the wall yet because Parham's painting the wall first before we then fix them to the wall. I said wall a lot of times then. And then we'll paint them after that. So, speeding back into the future, we then fix these display shelves over the top of the wall painting. A note on these shelves is that we made them at this angle knowing that we're only filming the show, rather than something you would look down on if you were a person in the space. So it's the second day of installing, basically we're putting up these shelves before we move on to painting this wall.
And I thought that, you know, I was as much interested in the stencils and wall writings of the revolution happening around 1970s, 1980s as part of the revolution, you know, the aesthetics of a revolution that you see everywhere. I was as much interested as those, and I saw the roots of my graffiti practice in those as much as those Western, cool, 3D, colorful graffitis. So it wasn't really to me about replicating the West. I could see that I'm a constitute of multiples. This is only working because of this shelf and the works going on the shelf and, you know.
Okay, so here's some more cutting, this time for the final piece of the furniture puzzle. A set of 2 wooden stands to hang Parham's large paper paintings from. So we've made these boards which are 2 meters 10 by 1 meter 50, and basically these are going to have Parham's 2 paintings which are on paper, and we need to make them freestanding, so we've just got to make some feet for them somewhere on the back here. Beautiful. Okay, so today's the 3rd day of install, and basically we've finished off the wall paintings you can see behind me and the display cases. And now we're trying to figure out where to put the paintings. We've got 2 large ones on paper and then some other ones on canvas which will be hanging off the ceiling on wire. Take 2. After placing the 2 large paintings as a set piece towards one end of the space, we then began arranging a selection of Parham's paintings on canvas. So here's where I swung in with a kind of alternative installation technique to hanging them on the wall. Because we're filming the shows, I wanted the paintings to have a more 3-dimensional presence that you can kind of see on camera. And having used this technique in the past on a simpler setup with some drawings, I wanted to try it out by hanging all the paintings this way around the space. So here's the deal, place the hooks in the ceiling, attach the wire with the wire clamps, screw some hooks in the floor and then 2 more on the back of the paintings. Weave the wire through the paintings, around the floor hooks and back up onto another hook in the ceiling, creating a kind of wire rectangle basically for the paintings to sit in. Choose your height and then lock into place with wire clamps. We've got wires going down here and we've attached it with hooks. We then repeated this with all the paintings. Close is quite nice. Yeah. I quite like it. It does look quite good from afar. Which is the biggest insult. And he's playing stuff. And like any good film premiere, you have to roll out the carpet. In this case, patterned rather than red. These are a series of prints replicating Persian rugs that we printed on fabric. In effect, we wanted every surface of the exhibition to be covered, and these floorworks are really about binding the whole thing together. And the final most important thing is the lighting.